All right, well, good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
I almost don't need this thing, do I? Yeah. Well, it's really great to be back here. And before we get started on our talk today, we really want to say a very special thank you to this congregation and especially Mark. The story about us getting hired by Unity Birmingham starts this way. We have to go through Unity Worldwide Ministries, and they send off our packets to the places that we apply to. Well, in the case of Unity Birmingham, they sent Christine's resume and her release forms, and they sent 2 copies of my release forms and the resume. So the president of the board receives this stuff, and he wonders, he's got her stuff, and he wonders, well, who's this Charles Barricade? So he goes to YouTube, where he finds Unity Manhattan. And he watches it, and he calls me, and we spend about an hour on the phone, at the end of which he says, well, we're going to have a board meeting tonight. I want to try to bring you guys in, so, find something on a weekend next month. This was March 21st we had this discussion. I want to find a weekend next month when you guys can come in. He calls me the next day and says, when can you be here? And we check our schedules, and April the 14th, 15th, that weekend is the only weekend that we can come. It's like, okay, we're on. And so with the help of Mark and everything that transpired, the amount of time it took from them not getting my resume to them reaching out, shaking our hands, and saying, you guys are going to be our next ministry for 3 weeks, which almost never happened. So today we want to talk about partners in truth, and that's a title that's pretty close. Anybody who has emailed Christine knows that her email address is christine@partnersintruth.com. It's actually the name of her business. And it's something that she's kind of called to herself because we really feel like we are partners in truth. But I think it's inspiring and sort of encouraging to know how she came by that. So you want to tell us how you came to create that as your business name?
Sure. I really do think shoes come off, got to bear the soul. Got to do it, honey. Yeah. Oh, that feels good. So, originally when I finished my master's in spiritual psychology and went on to do a year as a certified life coach, and when I came up with my practice, I called it Living Visions Coaching, because one of the most powerful experiences I had at the University of Santa Monica, where I did my master's work, was doing a living vision, which in fact was about me writing down, speaking out loud in the present tense with yummy, good descriptions of what I was calling forth in my life. And so I thought, wow, Living Visions Coaching, that's the name of my business. And as I was doing my coaching work and I was working with a lot of different people, actually internationally, all on the phone, what dawned on me was, there's a piece that comes before we get to that really core knowing of what our actual living vision is, of what we want to call forth in our life, the kind of life we're saying we want to live and create. And that is to know the truth for ourselves, to stop lying to ourselves. Basically, I introduced that with the children. To stop lying to ourselves, to be more honest about what it is that we're actually asking for in this life. And I found myself partnering with truth, with a capital T. And in my meditation, when I was asking for a clarification of what I'm here to do, it was to be a partner in truth. And I realized, all these people I've been working with, what I'm really offering is, I'll be your partner in truth. Even if you don't know what your truth is, but I'll be your partner in truth to help you get to the truth of who you are, so that you could start living that more fully in this lifetime. And it's no accident that it's the law of mind action, you know. As Charles said, our partnership is about partnering in truth. And wow, I mean, it happens on all levels of our being when we're being it. When we're being what we ask for, it shows up, like him. Yeah, and I said yes. That's a key.
She just nodded her head.
Yeah, definitely a different day.
So there's a couple of things. When we say truth in unity, we generally have the meaning of principle. We talk about truth principles a lot. In some of the earliest writings in unity, Lessons in Truth, talks on truth. And they're truth with a capital T, and we're really talking about the principles by which we view the universe, and by which we order our lives. And by that we're talking about things like the law of mind action. The thoughts that we hold in mind produce after their own kind. Right? That's a truth principle that's going to work. Just watch it show up in your life. And there is also the idea that truth is that which is honest, that which is real, that which is true for us. And today we kind of want to unpack that side of it. And we will talk a little bit about principle as we go along. But there's a big piece that we often don't look at, and that is simply being honest. You know, this is it's ideas that have been around for a very long time. William Shakespeare, in the play Hamlet, talks a little bit about this idea. And when we first talk about truth, we have to talk about being honest with ourselves. And that was kind of what Christine was uncovering in her business, was that when she was coaching people, they couldn't be honest with her because they're not even being honest with themselves, and in some cases don't even know it. You know, we end up living these lives that we tell ourselves without even knowing it. Well, you know, several hundred years ago, in the play Hamlet, the character Polonius is telling his son Laertes, who's getting ready to go off to college. He's giving him a bunch of advice. And he's kind of a long-winded guy. He goes through this very long speech, but then he sums it up by saying, "This above all, to thine own self be true, and it must follow, as the night the day, thou canst not be false to any man." And in that, he's really letting us know that it's our self-honesty that is the source of everything we are, with not only with each other, but with the world we live in.
It's like asking the children when I asked, and I'm sorry, what is your daughter's name? Joe. You know, if there's anybody that she can practice with, and she said her dog, you know, and I said, yeah, I've done it before with a stuffed animal, and she said she used to do that. And I said, I still do that. And that's the truth, though. I walk around having conversations with myself out loud more often than not now. The more I get to know myself, the more fun I have with these conversations. As a matter of fact, I'm just reminded right now. Prior to reconnecting with Charles, I hadn't seen him for a year, and I had no idea that this man even knew who I was when I met him at Unity Village originally. And 10 days before I went for my ministerial interviews in 2009, I was having a conversation with myself out loud, walking the streets of Santa Barbara, and I was telling myself the things that my future beloved would be saying to me. Details. Details. This man has told me every single one of those things that I said that my beloved would be saying to me. And some things were I can't repeat here. He has said those to me, and he did not know what I was saying. And we talk in unity about the power of the law and how it works and how principle works. And the truth is, it does work. And it's so good. And we have to be willing to be transparent, willing to be honest with ourselves, and willing to ask the powerful questions of what our heart is really, really asking for, even in that moment of discomfort. And when I said to Joe, sometimes it's uncomfortable when someone asks us a question and we know what we want to say and we don't say it. And also I offer that it's more uncomfortable to not tell the truth and live with the discomfort of that. And when we look at this quote that Charles brought forward, to thine own self be true, when we realize that no matter how far away from our capital S self we go, always we come back to that truth, that if and when we are in fact honest with ourselves, the outer cannot help but reflect that back to us, because it's the outer is a reflection of the inner.
So that's the layer of being honest with ourselves. And it's a powerful, powerful piece in the 12-step traditions. Honesty is one of the things that is considered the core requirement of being able to heal ourselves spiritually. In fact, one of the pieces from How It Works, if one of those folks is familiar with it, it says, rarely have we seen a person fail who has thoroughly followed our path. Those who do not recover are people who cannot or will not completely give themselves to this simple program, usually men and women who are constitutionally incapable of being honest with themselves. They're not at fault. They seem to have been born that way. They're naturally incapable of grasping and developing a manner of living which demands rigorous honesty. Their chances are less than average. All the different ways that 12-step has been expressed, whether it's alcoholism, overeating, sexual addiction, shopping addiction, all of the spiritual maladies that it's designed to combat. And the one real requirement is self-honesty. It is amazing what we can heal in ourselves when we are willing to be honest with ourselves. So just like we can create things for ourselves when we're true about what our intentions are, what our real desires are, what we really want from the universe, we can also take care of, we can heal those things. Jesus used to say that it's by your faith we've been healed, by your faith you're made whole. But there's a level of honesty in that. We have to be honest about what we really believe. If we don't really believe something, we don't have the faith, the kind of faith that's going to heal us. If we aren't truly honest about where we are in consciousness, there's no way we can get to where we say we want to go. Because we can't be honest about that. Now, the next layer of being a partner in truth is being a partner with someone else. Whether it is your spouse, your life partner, a parent, a child, a partner in business, someone you meet on the street. And the responsibility there is to be honest without being brutally honest. I saw a quote not too long ago that said, people who enjoy being brutally honest enjoy the brutality a lot more than the honesty. And, there's always a way of saying things honestly, but saying them with compassion.
Start with a loving heart.
Ralph Waldo Emerson, who is one of the transcendentalists, was one of the people who sort of, it's like the piano's playing, right?
That's my purse.
As one of the transcendentalists, they were sort of spiritual predecessors of the unity movement. And he said that the highest compact we can make with our fellow is, let there be truth between us two forevermore. Let us be truth between us two forevermore.
So it takes a willingness to be transparent, and a willingness on the other person's side to listen deeply, to take ownership, to be able to look at what somebody is sharing, to own the part that's theirs, to bless and appreciate and love also the part that isn't, and to hold that space for one another. So many times when we hear something that we don't want to hear, in our defense, we end up being defensive, and then we don't get the gift from it. And I love what Byron Katie says, that nobody has ever told us something that we haven't already told ourselves. Listen to that. No one has ever told us something that we haven't already told ourselves. Now, if we've told ourselves from a place of judgment, that's smart, and we don't want to hear it. We don't want to hear it from somebody else either. But if we can tell ourselves the honest truth, and love ourselves anyways, like my husband, I will tell you, and I have shared this before, one of the first things he did that impressed me beyond anything else he could have done was the first time I was vulnerable enough to share with him honestly something he did that really didn't feel good to me. And do you know what he said to me? I love you a little bit more than I did a minute ago. Wow. And you know what? He shared with me later, and he's shared with me since then. It's not that he wanted to hear that, but he was willing, because he made a commitment to be his best self now. He was willing to hear what I had to say, and he could own that and say to himself, yeah, you know, I said that about myself before too. He might not have said that out loud, but what he did say out loud to me was, thank you for telling me that. I love you a little bit more than I did a minute ago. Now, I will share with you, honestly, I had not had that experience before. I had been received before, perhaps with some defensiveness and, oh my God, and what is it about you, and absolute, and I would shrink. Well, we have to look at our parts in all of this, because there's something for each of us. 2 people come together, 3 people come together, a group comes together, and I will guarantee you that it's for each of our good. There is something here for everyone. We cannot be a part of a conversation, even if we're over, I tell people this, if there is somebody speaking in your earshot, is that the way you say it? Within your hearing, it's for you. So we can't just brush it off and say, that's about them. If we're a part in any way of the conversation, even if it's in the silence, it's for us. And there's a piece of that for us to do. And I share this with parents because this is a powerful one that I offer my children. Now, when I say to people, tell me the truth, if I ever say something that you look at me and say, she's not walking the talk, you know, she's not living up to what she says, my invitation is, tell me, let me know. You know what? That's not always comfortable for people. My husband is an example of that, right?
Absolutely. I was just going to say, part of being a partner in truth is being an accountability partner. And when we first became a couple, one of the things that I told Christine was that, I kind of like to lose some weight at some point. I want to do it safely. I don't want to be irresponsible about it. But I kind of like to do that. Well, we've been together for a few years now. And I weigh just about exactly the same I weigh, that I did when...
3 years.
Yeah, 3 years. And every once in a while she'd say something like, Charles, when you gotta maybe go on a diet, you want some celery, And I said, well, I'm going to take it slowly. How slowly are you going to take it?
Actually, he said by the third time it was, and I never did say, honey, you have some pounds to drop. I would just, want to go on a cleanse with me? Something like that. He ended up saying, I'm going to do it real slow. Slow, real slow. And I went, okay, he's going to do it slow.
What's interesting that finally what she said to me was, Charles, this is not about your weight. This is about your integrity.
That's what it was.
She said, if you tell me you're happy the way you are today, that's it. I won't say another word about it. You're fine. I love you just the way you are. You're good. But it's about your integrity. Is what you're saying in alignment with what you're doing? And I was like, so the next time she said, I'm thinking about going on a cleanse. I was like, great, I'm going to go with you. And that started the process where, since the beginning of the year, where I was up a few pounds with holiday weight, I'm down about 26 pounds. And I'm keeping it off. I have to because we threw away all my fat clothes.
All of them are gone. Are you sure, honey?
But and I'll be honest with you, there are times when, there's a little ouch in you, especially when you're dealing with something that has to do with your self-esteem. And it is so wonderful to have someone who is a partner in truth with me, who is more concerned about the truth of who I am and the truth of who I can be when I am living what I say I want to be. And it's both very liberating and it's very grounding. The challenge at times on both sides is to let go of judgment. It's when I might hear her say something about, well, let's just have some juice this morning. Do I feel like I'm being judged, or do I maybe judge that in a way that is not helpful? Anytime that we want to have a space in which to say our deepest truth, our partner, hopefully, can hear that without judgment. Now, there is a difference between having a preference and making a judgment. Preferences and honestly expressing our preferences is one of those ways that we're partners in truth. Where we get into trouble sometimes with our partners is when we have a preference and we don't express it. What do you want?
I don't know. Nothing.
How are you?
Fine. What's wrong? Nothing. Anybody relate at all?
Right? And we don't tell the truth. We think that we're doing our partner or the world a favor by not letting our preferences show, by not letting our feelings show. It's interesting. Jesus said in Luke chapter 16, verse 10, whoever is faithful in very little is faithful also in much. And whoever is dishonest in a very little is dishonest also in much. It's that living from just those little easy things that aren't true. The camel's nose getting in the tent, the next thing you know nothing that we say is true. And it's almost like, we were discussing this earlier, in Unity we talk about having an embedded theology a lot, because many of us came to Unity from some other faith tradition, and it takes a long time for us to unhook ourselves from some of those spiritual beliefs that make us feel separate from God, for example. Well, I know for people, at least in my generation, we have an embedded sociology that basically says, whatever you do, don't tell the truth. No matter what. How are you? I'm fine. How are you feeling? I'm feeling great. What do you want? Oh, nothing for me. I'm all good. The town I grew up in was in denial about life in the town I grew up in. It was the town, the politics, my family, everybody. Nobody wanted to tell the truth of what was going on, because the truth is kind of messy. But you know what? If we would say the truth, we probably could clean a lot of the mess up. And so that gets back to the next layer out, which is as far as we're going to get in today's talk, and that is what it's like to be partners in truth and community. What it's like to be partners in truth in a congregation. And one of the first things that has to be done is we have to leave behind that all those social lies that we tell, because they don't serve us. You know, Paul talked a lot about what it was like to be in relationship, in community, in church, in congregation. And one of the things that he said in the second visit to the Corinthians, in chapter 4, the second verse, speaks to this. We have renounced the shameful things that one hides. We refuse to practice cunning or to falsify God's word. But by the open statement of the truth, we commend ourselves to the conscience of everyone in the sight of God. That is a tall word. But what it calls us to is living together in a community based on truth rather than being based on convenient little falsehood.
Well, and the amazing piece is that becomes effortless in this is always comes back to ourselves. Always comes back to the power that we have, each one of us, to thine own self be true. Because if each one of us were to show up fully present, honest with ourselves, what kind of community would we be a part of or attract? Ourselves. There's no other way for this is the way it works. It's the law. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And so if we're going to show up in a community and be fully committed, see, a lot of times we don't see this through all the way, so we don't see the results. Because we stop ourselves because it feels like such a big risk to be so vulnerable, to be so honest. But the truth is, we won't know until we do it, until we're fully committed to showing up fully with all our perceived anything that isn't the truth of who we are. Showing up fully, and we cannot help but have a community like us. Because like attracts like, and it's the outer is a reflection of the inner, and it's the law of attraction, the law of mind action. That's what we talk about in Unity all the time. And so when I love to do this with the teams, you know, to use things as, you know, science experiments, like who wants to do a science experiment? Show up fully, be ourselves, tell the truth, first and foremost with ourselves so that we then share with another, and sometimes have that partnering community in our lives where we can call each other on our stuff and be open, willing, and able to be honest and be able to say, can you imagine being in a congregation where you go, man, I love you a little bit more today than I did yesterday. because you were so honest in that way from love and compassion. And there was this piece about my daughter, Gabriella, that I was going to share about how honesty works. And this is the piece I've shared before with parents where they're like, I don't know, that's a little bit of a stretch. But as Charles was mentioning, there's some old theology embedded, there's some old social acceptance ways of being embedded in us that we really need to take a look at and go, is that my truth anymore? Now, I have said to my children since they were little, tell me the truth. If you don't like something I'm doing, some way I'm being, go ahead and tell me. Well, my children are pretty honest with me, and my youngest one told me, now she's going to be 18, June 2nd, probably 7, 8 years old, driving in the car, and I'm talking to her about something that I didn't like that she was doing, and she says, Mommy, I don't like that tone of voice. And I will tell you, in that instant, I felt this little shock. The first thought I had was, you can't talk to me like that. And I was like, wait, I invited her to tell me the truth. What's going on inside of me? Oh God, it doesn't feel good that I did that again, that I used that tone of voice. I was judging myself. My reaction to her wasn't about her telling me, it was the shame I felt of, oh my God, I did it again. Like, how many times am I going to do that before I stop doing that? And then I, in that instant, was able to, what I call, apply the forgiveness, apply the loving, and just go, wow, okay, I did it, and okay, I'm so glad she could let me know. But to be a part of a partnership or a community, the planet, where we can all say to each other the truth, we own our own reaction to it. We're able to look a little bit more deeply at ourselves to see what's really going on under it, and to get to that place where we can I can look at you and say, thank you for that gift. Because you know what? She gave me a gift. And they keep giving me those gifts. So nice.
So really, in community, one of the big keys is being willing to be authentic. And kind of hand in hand with being authentic is being willing to be vulnerable. And the reason that we're vulnerable is because we're afraid people are going to see who we really are, and that they may not like us. But the truth is if we allow that fear to control us, we'll never get to an authentic relationship, and we'll never get what we really want. Ted Williams says we tell lies when we are afraid. Afraid of what we don't know, afraid of what others will think, afraid of what will be found out about us. But every time we tell a lie, the thing that we fear grows stronger. So what we invite you to do today is to let go of the fear of being found out for who you really are. Of maybe even being rejected for who you really are. And embrace partnership in truth, because it will attract to you that which you most deeply are at the soul level. And it is honesty, partnership in truth, that allows us to become partners in truth with the greater principles that unlock the keys to the kingdom of heaven.
Absolutely.
Thank you all for having us with you again.